your neighbors must love you.
Yeah, not so much. Welcome back, guys. We're gonna jump right into it. I need to start getting the floor pans on this thing kind of marked out so I can start cutting them out. Looking last night, it looks like some of that tin that I have might not be for this cab. It might have been purchased for either a Suburban or possibly for a single cab. It's hard to tell, but I might end up having to order a few more parts. So we're gonna start by marking out what I do have, seeing how far I can get, cutting out some of this bad rust, and potentially tacking some of the new stuff into place. We did manage to get the doors off and the seats pulled so that we can start working around everything and hopefully be able to make a little bit of progress today. Unfortunately, for the next 2 days, it's supposed to be 116 and 117 degrees, so you will be hearing the swamp cooler, unfortunately. But it's the only way I'm going to be able to get anything done, so let's get started. I want to show you something. When buying a vehicle, it's important to really inspect it. Now, I bought this truck sight unseen and it was delivered to me from North Carolina, so obviously I didn't get a chance to really go over it. But there was a valiant effort made to cover up the extent of the rust problem. And when you're talking to the old timers, there'll always be somebody joking about chicken wire and Bondo and filling in old rust gaps with Bondo and chicken wire and newspaper and things like that. But this is a whole nother level. So I've just cut loose this rocker, and I'm just going to show you what I pulled off in real time, because you cannot make this shit up. I just cut this rocker loose, obviously, and this is exactly how it went to the ground, right off the bat here. I'll just show you. Now, I know someone's gonna say, well, maybe rats did it. Well, rats didn't wander their ass down to AutoZone and buy a 5-gallon jug of Bondo to cover it, so that's going with no. This is the inside of the rocker, and here we have tin foil, a pine cone, and I got the funny papers, some more newspaper here. It's nice. But here's what's interesting. Here's why I know that this wasn't a naturally occurring mistake where rats packed it or something like that. You'll notice that it's embedded in the Bondo that was used to create the outer face of this. Let me get this off here. So this is all Bondo with spray paint to create the outside surface of the rocker so that it appeared as if it had rocker panels that were in fact not absolutely full of rust. And then when you roll it over, you see it's tin foil, it's newspaper. So let's go ahead and move past that. So if we peel that bad boy back a little, here's another glorious addition. Ready for this? What do we got here? Got us a newspaper burrito. That's good filler. We've got a tube of caulking. So it makes me wonder if this is even Bondo. It's probably not even Bondo. It's probably caulking, based on the fact that what I'm pulling off is so rubbery. Bondo breaks and powderizes. This is rubbery. So they actually used liquid nails, DAP liquid nails for siding, and filled the rocker panels with that, and then just threw the container in there to hold it all in place. You can imagine I'm thrilled right now. One day we'll get to look back and laugh at this, and it'll be funny. And, I mean, it's not right now, but eventually it'll be funny, right? It'll get funnier. We are at peak heat of the day, and I have made almost no headway, because every time that I start to cut something out, I find myself finding more rust deeper and deeper the more I go. And I don't necessarily have everything I need in order to replace what I've been cutting out. So I have to kind of pay attention to what I'm cutting. Is it good? Is it salvageable? Is it bad? Is it a part that's actually aftermarket available, or is it in between two patch panels and I would end up hand fabbing it? So I'm being very careful about what I'm cutting out to make sure that I'm not creating a situation where I'm looking for parts I can't get or having to hand fab a bunch of things I didn't have to because the metal was salvageable and I cut it out recklessly. It's frustrating. It's also 115, so I'm a real peach to deal with right now. So I needed a win, and evidently the universe provided. So I hated the headache rack on this thing. It had an enormous rack that came up and across with tail lights on it, and it was this huge freaking pipe and this huge freaking angle iron, and it was very poorly put together. And I decided, since I had the Sawzall out anyways for knocking out some of these body panels, I'd just go ahead and lop it off there so I didn't have to look at it. And as I was finishing the last cut to remove it, what do we see?
The scrap guy pulls up just in time to take it off my hands.
That's kind of where I'm at right now. I've cut out all the old panel, obviously you saw that with the disgusting metal, and I've got the new one trimmed mostly in a place where I feel that I can actually do something with it, where I can tack that in and it'll be useful. I'm gonna go ahead and start working up towards the front, where I think I can go ahead and start mocking up the floor pan for the front. I need to mock up as many panels as possible before I start cutting away, because once I start cutting, there's no going back. B, I can't really match up panel to panel unless I have those panels in place. So I might be trimming excess material that I don't want to, because I don't know where the other panels are going to start, stop, and end. Alternatively, here in the corners, we have the cab corners themselves, and they're toast. I have replacements, that's great, but in order to access them, the bed has to be off, and this bed is welded to the frame and big enough that it easily takes more than I have friends to remove. So I have to try and come up with a solution for that. So there's a lot going on. Not making a lot of progress, but we're learning a lot. We've made it to 8 o'clock and I've accomplished almost nothing after running into pitfall after pitfall and reason after reason I hate this truck. It is too hot, my brain is fried, and I started throwing things because I have the patience of a child. Luckily, Daniel was here to help me with a few of those things and make a little bit of headway, which is yet to be determined. We'll show you a little bit of that later once I get something tacked into place. But for now, realistically, not a whole lot got done. I ended up fighting a lot of other smaller issues, so I think I'm going to come back to this on Monday with some different tooling and see if I can't make this a little bit more progressive. We need to get a Cody.
Today we got me. I'm back. I know you missed me so much. And we got, you know, the original. So we're getting back into this truck. Last time I showed up a little late, and apparently it was a show. So we're gonna attack it hard this time. What are you looking for? Talk to me.
We're gonna try and button up what went horribly awry on Saturday. I had misinterpreted how much paneling was actually going to need to be replaced, and was having access with some of the tools that we were using to try and get into those lower positions where there's not a lot of access to it. So cutting out the actual footwell on the sides where the side kick panels go requires a little bit of a more finesseful tool than what I had, and I kept breaking tools, not having the right consumables for those tools, so on and so forth. So between that, the cutting myself all up to pieces on the side of this thing while I was trying to lean in there, and then the rampant heat just frying my brain, I kind of lost my mind and started throwing things. So it was time to stop. We wrapped up for the day. We're gonna hit it today. It's a little cooler. I have an actual helping hand that can give me a little bit of help here, and hopefully we'll be able to at least get everything cut out, mocked up, and see what we're gonna have to make that we don't already have.
There we go, folks.
Alright, so we'll show you what we got so far. Managed to get the floor pans cut out from the front. Still got to trim in the other ones to see where we're actually at. But with the floor pan cut out, we're able to get access to these frame outriggers. They're the support that holds the exterior panels of the body to the inside rail of the body that sits on the frame. So it supports the entire cab of the truck. And they were horribly rotten. Luckily for me, I already knew they were rotten. I could see them from underneath, so I already bought those. I have those, so we're gonna go ahead and get those into place, get them tacked up. But both sides are out. Still a bunch of trim work we need to do on the outsides to try and get it cleaned up enough that once the panels go into place, there's no rust there, and we're welding clean metal to clean metal. But fortunately, with Cody's zealous tenacity, we've made more progress in the last couple of hours than I did in the entire day on Saturday. So we're looking pretty good.
It's not me.
Air hammer chisel attachment.
It's the air hammer. Let's be honest.
It's with this thing being as rusted as it is, even things that were supposed to unbolt or spots that should have been easily drilled out in the spot rivet and then removed, it just didn't work that way. Everything is rusted in place, so we've been air hammering a lot of stuff.
It's like an air-powered tuna can opener. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's quite beautiful.
But we'll try and get those mocked in, and then we can go ahead and start test prepping and painting some of that stuff with this rust inhibitor to see what it looks like. Another thing I failed to mention, I did finally get belts ordered for this. I might have mentioned it before, it doesn't matter. Belts are coming, so we can get moving on that a little bit more. But we needed a radiator for the run stand. So we're gonna use the radiator out of the truck on the run stand, so flushing all the junk out of the block that's been broken loose by replacing all the freeze plugs and sitting in storage with no coolant in it will end up in the old junk radiator instead of in a nice new radiator. So we went ahead and ordered a brand new Champion 4-core big bad dog for this thing that should easily cool that motor, and then we're going to be putting some 6000 CFM Flex Light S-blades on it.
Nice.
But this bad boy came in on Sunday.
Sunday?
I'm really excited to put it in. But I have to replace the floor first.
Floor first.
I guess we should do that.
Metal. You can bleep it out. You'll be fine.
Well, after Saturday night, I already have a lot of bleeping to do.
Okay, there you go. See, so it's par for the course at this point. Update number 2. So you saw we had the thing.
Two? You gotta remember, I started videoing on Saturday.
Yeah, but this is a new day, son.
Okay, well,
you see over here? He's got a nice little piece of metal in right there. It's where it's supposed to go. One of the new LMC sheets. So that's nice. And we started cutting that rocker over here to make it match the other side because we got the new rocker. It's gonna go in right there. That's gonna go there. Words of wisdom, words of advice. All work brought to you by
don't eat yellow snow.
Bud Light Seltzer.
No,
hey, label out so we can get sponsored.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they're
label. Thank you. Label out.
Right
so there you go.
Realistically, words of wisdom. We ended up testing out 3 different products for rust inhibitors, and although we weren't happy with one of them because it was a rust reformer, while the other 2 are rust inhibitor reformer, supposedly does everything products. The finish on one of them stood far out above the others, which happened to be this product who doesn't endorse us, so I'm not showing you. But it worked really well. So we went ahead and used that other one that's supposed to be a reformer, and we soaked everything we could that we're not going to be able to have access to once we weld it in place, and then went back over it with the one that's supposed to be a rust inhibitor. That way we have the option that is supposed to stop more rust from happening.
It actually did. Turned a little bit black right there like it was supposed to.
It is, yeah, this has all been hit with a product that is supposed to be a reformer that'll turn rust black. The rest of it will go on like clear coat. The problem is A, it doesn't look nice, and B, it's hard to tell what you've already painted. So we don't really like that product very much, but since we have it, we're going to use it up, particularly in the regions where I don't have access to them once they're back to being closed. Got the rocker panel on the passenger side cut loose. On this side, we're starting to put metal back in. Went ahead and got that kick panel in place. And you see that I ended up cutting a little bit higher than what that kick panel entailed. So I'll have to make a small patch panel there.
Yeah, just a little patch panel.
Is not the end of the world, but it meant that I was able to cut out the rust and cancer that was there and got clean metal up at that line. So a small patch panel above a factory patch panel is very easy to do, but it means that I'm not going to have to worry about rust in that region again. So it's well worth the extra effort. I'll gladly cut it out if it means that I don't have to deal with it twice.
And at the end of the day, you don't have a little sandwich dongle like this guy here. Correct. We got to finish cutting out, and then we can actually trim up and put that kick panel in here, and then start tying in the rest of the rocker along with these front floor pans and start getting everything buttoned up. So sitting better than we were yesterday.
Starting to look like something. The main thing is we've kind of gotten further down into it enough to start recognizing the anatomy of it, what actually needs to come out and what goes where. The main thing that is most important here is that kick panel is one of the only parts of this entire endeavor that is a bolt-in part, where it has 2 bolt holes that index it into place before having to weld the rest in. Which means that now I have something that is actually stuck to the front of the truck that's going to be kind of a reference point for us to weld in everything else, and it should kind of help us find where we're supposed to be at, so that when we actually start welding, we'll have a reference point so everything comes out nice and straight and cleanly, so when the doors go on, our body gaps aren't atrocious.
That's it. That's all we got. Where did we get to, D? We got driver's side. Your side looks a little more functional than mine. Got kick panel in, floor panel in. Both of them are essentially screwed in place or clamped in place. My side over here working a little bit slower. Had some different situations. We were able to get the kick panel ready to go. Got the frame rail blacked out. Actually mocked up the kick panel, so it's ready to go back in, 2 bolts. Then we can start messing with the actual floor panel itself. But other than that, I think we made pretty good headway.
We kind of attacked the driver's side with a little bit more gusto because I had an entire wasted day of finagling with it, not actually getting very far. And then with Cody's tenacity and help, we're able to attack the passenger side in a slightly more productive manner that ultimately closed the gap on productivity. We were able to get much further on this side using that technique that transferred over to that side, and the work that I'd already started on that side kind of worked between the two. So what's going to ultimately end up going to happen is I'm going to end up continuing on the driver's side, just because I don't want to take out any more structural rigidity on the body itself. We did put the outrigger back in. It is perched in place, it's self-tapered, it's clamped. There's not a whole lot of damage that could potentially be done here because we do have a jack under the frame as well. But there is a lot of things here that need to be in alignment so the doors line up and have a good door gap at the end. So I don't want to start getting too crazy, tacking things, pulling things, and continuing until I get something kind of locked in place. So while the driver's side is looking pretty good, I do have all of the interior trim panels that I need to go underneath. So while the rocker panels look good, the interior trim panels still need to be cut into place. They're going to actually add that structural form that makes it so the cab stays in place in proximity to the frame. Super critical, not something you pay attention to when you're looking at the rust in a truck. Certainly not what I was looking for when I bought it. But I would not be this far if it wasn't for the fact that Cody's fearless to jump in, start doing things, and I needed his help here today, and I really appreciated it. So we made a lot of headway in a short amount of time.
We did. We were able to split the truck in 2, and we were able to have him on one side, me on the other. And while his is a little more buttoned up, he had a pretty heavy head start on that side. And we were able to kind of finalize some things on that before really getting into it with trying to put panels back in. So
let's go ahead and look at this side. There's a fair probability that I'll find time this week to start working on it, being as now this has become a high priority item. There's no choice but to finish what I've started, what we've started. So this is an oversized panel, and this is something that's offered by LMC, and you'll notice that it goes, this body line is here and here, and you'll notice that it actually overlays the trim in various places so that it falls below and above and outwards towards those spaces that we do have rust. So here, this will actually shift forward something like this. So where we have some of this surface rust here, we're going to have trimmable material here. So we'll be able to cut up here until we find a nice straight portion of clean material and trim this in. So that's something that's offered by LMC. That's a really nice piece. It's going to hopefully make things a lot smoother for us in the long run. But I'll be able to hopefully attack that during the week. It's going to become a situation of what the week actually entails.
Well, and hopefully it cools down a little bit.
And knowing now that I jumped into it thinking I was going to knock it out in a day, and that's just not going to happen. I've come at it with a different mindset. I understand that it's going to take some time, and we're getting there. So, hard to say, but I feel pretty good about it. So we're going to just work our way through it, and we'll see you guys again next week.
Wackadoo out.